They say that with age comes wisdom, but few talk about the silent threats that come along too. After 65, our immune systems don't fight like they used to. A simple cough can turn into pneumonia. A scratch can lead to sepsis. And what once was just a stomach bug can now mean a week in the hospital. Across Europe and America, thousands of seniors each year face infectious diseases that hide in plain sight until it's too late. But it doesn't have to be this way. With the right information, we can protect ourselves and our loved ones. This is not about fear. It's about awareness, dignity, and living fully with the wisdom earned over time. Before we dive in, consider subscribing and turning on notifications to receive more life-saving insights grounded in elderly wisdom, senior health, and real stories that matter. The first disease that is very easy to get is pneumonia, when breathing becomes a battle. For younger people, a chest cold may feel like an inconvenience. But after 65, pneumonia isn't just uncomfortable, it can be fatal. This lung infection, often caused by bacteria or viruses, quietly becomes one of the leading causes of death in elderly adults around the world. What many don't realize is how fragile the lungs become with age. The immune system weakens naturally, reflexes that once protected the airway diminish, and lung capacity shrinks. Even something as small as a common cold can evolve into full-blown pneumonia. Seniors may not even show typical symptoms. Instead of fever or chest pain, many feel only fatigue, confusion, or a general sense of weakness. That's why pneumonia in the elderly is often missed until it becomes critical. In both the United States and Europe, pneumonia hospitalizes hundreds of thousands of seniors annually. Mortality rates can reach up to 30% for older adults, with complications. Prevention is not only possible, it's essential. The pneumococcal vaccine, recommended for everyone over 65, drastically reduces the risk of the deadliest strains. Combined with the annual influenza vaccine, since the flu often leads to secondary pneumonia, proper hand washing. A former librarian, Ethel had always lived alone, took pride in her garden, and walked daily. One frosty morning she woke feeling breathless, but brushed it off. By nightfall she was admitted to the hospital in respiratory distress. It was pneumonia, and it had spread fast. Her daughter, a nurse, later said, "We always thought Mom was strong enough to push through anything. We didn't realize pneumonia doesn't play fair after a certain age." Ethel survived, but recovery took months, and her lung capacity never fully returned. She now shares her story at senior events, reminding others that elderly wisdom means not just staying active, but staying aware. Take the vaccine, listen to your breath, and never think you're too tough to get taken down by something so small. Urinary tract infection. The culprit behind the confusion. This is the second disease bringing unpredictable consequences. It starts with a little forgetfulness. Maybe your spouse seems out of sorts, or your parent is more irritable than usual. Then come the falls, the drowsiness, the refusal to eat. Many families rush to doctors thinking it's dementia or even stroke. But the answer is far more treatable and more dangerous if missed: a urinary tract infection. UTIs in elderly adults are shockingly common, yet often misunderstood. In women over 65, they account for nearly 30% of all infections. In older men, especially those with prostate issues or catheters, they're also highly prevalent. But unlike younger adults, seniors often don't experience burning or frequency. Instead, UTIs manifest as behavioral changes: confusion, anxiety, delirium, or sudden withdrawal untreated. A simple UTI can become a kidney infection or lead to sepsis, which is life-lengthening and fast-moving. The keys to prevention include drinking enough water daily, urinating regularly, maintaining personal hygiene, especially for those with mobility issues, avoiding unnecessary catheter use, and recognizing the warning signs early. In women with recurring infections, doctors may suggest vaginal estrogen or probiotics to rebalance bacteria. Walter Jensen, 82, from Copenhagen, had always been sharp and engaged. A retired engineer, he read philosophy in the morning and volunteered at the library twice a week. One afternoon, his daughter found him pacing and talking to the bookshelf. "I thought he was having a stroke or early dementia," she said. At the ER, a nurse insisted on a urine test. Diagnosis: UTI. Walter was given fluids and antibiotics. 2 days later, he was back to himself. "It felt like watching my mind fade from the inside," Walter said. "I was there, but not really." This is one of those life lessons from the elderly. Never assume a change in personality or behavior is just age. Sometimes it's the body asking for help, quietly. Next comes the third disease that is very familiar and can be contracted at almost any time. Flu, the familiar virus with unforgivable consequences. Most of us think of the flu as an annoying week-long illness. But for older adults, influenza is one of the most underestimated killers. It's not just the virus itself, it's what it can lead to. Pneumonia, hospitalization, worsening of chronic diseases, heart failure, and even stroke. After 65, the body's immune response is slower and less coordinated. That's why even with vaccination, flu complications are common among seniors. Still, the flu shot reduces hospitalization risk significantly and can be the difference between life and death. Every winter, hospitals fill with seniors struggling to breathe. Many waited too long to seek care or assumed they could fight it off. Some never had the flu shot because they never got sick before. Prevention is about preparation, getting vaccinated each fall, encouraging caregivers and family to do the same. Frequent hand washing, wearing masks during peak season in public spaces, and staying home when feeling unwell. A high-protein diet, good sleep, and moderate exercise can also keep the immune system more resilient. Raymond Ortega, 76, from Valencia, Spain, skipped his flu shot for 3 years. "I just never liked needles," he shrugged. But that winter, after catching the virus at a crowded holiday market, he collapsed at home. His wife panicked, called emergency services. Raymond spent 12 days in the ICU, barely conscious. He lived, but the flu took its toll. He now walks with a cane. After clear cautions affected his balance. "It was just the flu," he said quietly. Until it wasn't. Now Raymond volunteers at his local senior center, sharing his story. "If I can save one man from skipping that vaccine, it's worth it." Shingles, when the past comes back to burn. The fourth disease is also here. This is a disease that can easily recur at any time if you are not careful. Shingles isn't just a rash. It's the reawakening of the chickenpox virus, a silent stowaway in the nervous system that can flare up decades later, just when the body is least prepared. After age 50 and especially after 65, the virus can strike without warning. What starts as tingling or sensitivity on one side of the body often turns into blistering pain that wraps around the torso, chest, or face. But here's what most people don't expect. The pain doesn't always go away when the rash does. Post-herpetic neuralgia, nerve pain that can linger for months or even years, is a cruel, invisible punishment. For some, it makes wearing clothes unbearable. Others lose sleep, mobility, and even their sense of independence. Why does this matter so much? Because more than 1 in 3 adults over 60 will develop shingles at some point in their lives. That's not a guess. That's what the numbers show us. There is good news though. The shingles vaccine, Shingrix, is more than 90% effective in preventing both the rash and the lasting pain. It's approved for adults 50 and older and especially critical for those over 65. But many seniors still don't know about it. Marianne Brooks, 74, from Pennsylvania, had never skipped a doctor's visit in her life. But one fall afternoon she felt a strange stinging on her side. "By that evening it felt like someone was slicing into me with fire," she said. For 3 weeks she lay in bed, unable to wear a blouse or sit comfortably. The pain followed her for almost a year. "I didn't even know there was a vaccine," Marianne admitted. "Had I known, I would have taken it in a heartbeat." Now she spends her mornings at the community center, gently urging others, "Don't wait until it burns, prevent it while you can." Continue to come to the virus that has made us tremble for a long time. COVID-19, the modern killer that redefined vulnerability. No virus has reshaped our lives like COVID-19. It changed how we gather, how we care for each other, and how we think about risk. But for seniors, it did something deeper. It exposed the quiet truth that we are more fragile than we appear and more isolated than we realize. Seniors over 65 have carried the heaviest burden of the pandemic. They accounted for nearly 80% of COVID-19 deaths worldwide. And yet in the early days, many didn't know how serious it was. Some didn't hear the warnings. Others were simply afraid to ask for help. COVID wasn't always loud. It didn't always roar. In many seniors, it whispered. A shortness of breath, a little fatigue, a loss of appetite. But once it took hold, it attacked not just the lungs, but the heart, the kidneys, the brain. The best protection remains vaccination. Boosters matter even now, especially now the virus changes. So must our defenses. Updated shots reduce the risk of severe illness, hospitalization, and long-term complications. For seniors, staying up to date isn't just smart, it's life-saving. But protection goes beyond medicine. Connection is protection too. Emotional support, clear communication, and community resources make a difference. No one should face this virus alone. Frank Delgado, 81 from Madrid, survived COVID. But what he remembers most isn't the fever, it's the silence. I was isolated in a room for 12 days, but the silence lasted longer. My neighbor passed away, my best friend never woke up. I didn't just lose people, I lost time. Now Frank speaks at senior centers, helping others process grief and take action. We must protect ourselves, he says, but we must also keep living. We must keep loving. Do you suddenly feel stomach pain for no reason? It could be norovirus a stomach bug that can send you to the emergency room. We often joke about food poisoning, but norovirus, sometimes called the winter vomiting bug, is nothing to laugh about, especially for those over 65. It's one of the most contagious viruses in the world. One microscopic trace is enough to infect an entire household, cruise ship, or nursing home. For younger people, it means a few miserable days, but for seniors, it can be dangerous. Why? Because norovirus causes intense vomiting and diarrhea that lead to dehydration quickly. And in older adults, dehydration can cause a domino effect. Kidney failure, blood pressure crashes, even cardiac strain. There's no treatment, no vaccine, just fluids, rest, and time. That's why prevention is critical. Wash hands obsessively, avoid raw or buffet-style food, and be cautious in group setting. Harold Green, 76, from Tampa, was taking the cruise of his dreams. 4 days in, he felt a strange churn in his stomach. Within hours, he was vomiting and weak. By morning, he was in the ship's infirmary, hooked to IV fluids. 12 of us got sick, he said, but I was the only one who couldn't get up the next day. Age makes everything heavier. He missed half the cruise recovering and spent a week in a hospital back home. Now Harold carries hand sanitizer like it's gold. People don't realize how fragile you become until a stomach bug knocks you down for 10 days. That's the kind of insight only experience can teach. It's not fearsight, and it's the kind of knowledge we owe each other to share. When you reach your 70s or 80s, you begin to realize something. It's not just about avoiding disease, it's about preserving dignity. The stories shared above aren't just cautionary tales, they are reminders. So what can we learn from those who've been there, who've suffered through the invisible attacks of viruses and infections, and still found their way back to joy? Their lives are like quiet libraries of experience, filled with pages of pain, resilience, and rediscovery. Seniors who thrive make small health practices part of their ordinary rhythm. It's not about perfect diets or daily gym sessions. It's about waking up and drinking water before coffee. It's about gentle stretching while waiting for the kettle to boil. It's about creating a life where rest, nutrition, and routine aren't luxuries, they're non-negotiables. Margot Dupont, 78, from Lyon, France, has a simple ritual. Every Sunday evening, she sits with her planner and writes 3 things: the weather forecast, her walking days, and a health check. Hydration, sleep quality, any odd symptoms. My doctor sees me twice a year, she smiles, but I see myself every day. In Stockholm, Ingrid Larsson, 81, keeps a care corner in her kitchen. It's a small tray with supplements, a handwritten chart of daily habits, and a weekly affirmation. Sometimes the smallest habits make the biggest difference, she says, and they remind me I still have control. We weren't made to age alone. Loneliness chips away at both the spirit and the immune system. Seniors who surround themselves with honest, encouraging peers tend to catch problems early, follow through on treatment, and recover faster. But it's not just about having friends. It's about choosing the right ones. In Amsterdam, a retired teacher named Hans, 80, created a wellness buddy system. He and 5 neighbors check in twice a week via phone or doorstep visits. They track medication adherence, walking time, and even mental clarity. We are not nurses, Hans says. We are friends who notice, that's enough. In rural Nebraska, church bulletin boards have become unlikely health tools. Seniors post reminders for flu shot clinics, COVID booster schedules, and even local transportation services for doctor visits. The community acts like a shared immune system. Alvin Mendoza, 83, from San Diego, summed it up best. We're each other's immune system now. We remind, we nudge, we support, and that keeps us alive longer than vitamins. Many older adults avoid the healthcare system out of frustration, fear, or bad past experiences. But those who live longer, and better, learn to make peace with it. They ask questions, they keep folders, they track symptoms. They make their doctors partners, not judges. Anna Mary Jensen, 86, in Oslo, keeps a simple system. A notebook with large print questions, space for answers, and a pocket for prescription. I take it like I take my purse. It holds value. In Manchester, 75-year-old Ronald Hughes brings his daughter to every appointment. I forget things, he admits, but she doesn't. She writes it all down, and she helps me understand what the doctor's really saying. Medical literacy, knowing what a diagnosis means, understanding test results, recognizing side effects, has become a form of empowerment. Many seniors now attend workshops, online webinars, or community health classes just to gain confidence when navigating appointments. There is no such thing as a perfect record after 70. Everyone stumbles, everyone forgets, everyone misses a signal. But the key is what comes next. Resilience isn't just physical, it's emotional, it's intellectual. Those who fall and rise again, they are the ones who inspire others. Elaine Navarro, 80, from Toronto, lived through pneumonia twice. The first time I cried for weeks, she said. Now she teaches a small group called Prepared Not Paranoid at her church. They discuss warning signs, medication side effects, and the power of preparation. Getting sick didn't make me weak. Not learning from it would have made me foolish. Across the Atlantic in Dublin, 77-year-old Bernard Quinn used his recovery from COVID-19 to write a small guide for men over 70. It's handwritten and photocopied, titled "Don't Be a Tough Guy About Your Health." It offers tips, reminders, and moments of humor. We're not invincible, he says, but we're not helpless either. The elders we spoke with didn't just want to live. They wanted to leave something behind, something bigger than medicine. They wanted to leave instructions, reflections, quiet truths that could outlive their presence. In Birmingham, UK, 87-year-old Thomas Green writes short letters to his grandchildren. Each one focuses on a different life lesson he learned the hard way. One is titled, "Ask the Questions You're Afraid Of." In British Columbia, 79-year-old Eva Zhou organizes a story hour every Friday. She invites her peers to share the hardest health moments of their life and what they wish their younger selves had known. The room is quiet, she says, but you can feel the healing happen. It's like passing on a candle, not a warning. That's what elderly reflection truly means. Not just surviving the years, but filling them with truth that helps others walk lighter. Let this be your reflection too, not out of fear, but out of love. Love for your future, love for those who still depend on your laughter, your stories, your elderly wisdom. And as we move forward together, let's remember, prevention isn't avoidance, it's presence. It's care. It's what we owe ourselves. If you've made it this far, it means something important. You care. You're the kind of person who believes that knowledge is power, but wisdom is responsibility. We've walked through risks, we've listened to stories, and we've unpacked truths that many overlook until it's too late. And now, it's your turn to carry this forward. Not just for yourself, but for those who might not know what questions to ask. You don't have to be a doctor to protect your health. You don't need to be a hero to inspire someone else. Just sharing this story, this insight, this spark of prevention could change someone's path. That's how elderly wisdom spreads, quietly, powerfully. So here's our invitation. Leave a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. Share this with someone who might need it, or simply pause and ask yourself, what's one thing I will do differently after today? You matter, your health matters, and your story, it just might be the reason someone else lives a longer, healthier life. Thank you for spending this time with us.